In the year 1500, there was a city that controlled more wealth than London, Venice, and Paris combined. Its merchants traded in gold, silk, and spices across 3 continents. Its universities taught medicine, astronomy, and law to scholars who would shape empires. And yet today, most people have never heard its name. This is not a legend. This is not speculation. This is the story of Vijayanagara, the forgotten capital of an empire that rivaled anything Europe had ever built. For 5 centuries, its ruins have sat in silence. But the stones remember everything. Welcome to Unknown History Archive, uncovering the world's forgotten past, one story at a time. What you are about to see is not myth. It is not folklore. It is the reconstructed world of a civilization that was deliberately erased from the historical record, not by time, but by those who conquered it. For centuries, European scholars wrote the history of the medieval world as if only Europe mattered. They mapped trade routes that ignored the Indian Ocean. They described empires that never mentioned the Deccan Plateau. And they taught generations of students that wealth, culture, and power in the 1500s belonged to the West. But the evidence tells a different story. In southern India, between the years 1336 and 1646, there stood a city larger than Rome at its height. A city with running water, paved streets, and multi-story bazaars. A city where a single market could host 60,000 merchants in a single day. A city that, according to foreign visitors, made European capitals look like frontier towns. This is the story of how that city rose, how it became the richest metropolis in the medieval world, and how it was destroyed so completely that even its name nearly vanished. To understand Vijayanagara, you must first understand the world it was born into. The year is 1300. The Indian subcontinent is not a single kingdom. It is a patchwork of competing powers, each controlling critical trade routes between the Islamic world, China, and Southeast Asia. In the north, the Delhi Sultanate has just established dominance over the Gangetic Plain. Its armies move south, raiding Hindu kingdoms, sacking temples, and extracting tribute from any ruler who resists. In the Deccan, the vast plateau that forms the heart of southern India, local dynasties struggle to maintain independence. The Hoysala Empire, once a dominant force, is fracturing under pressure. The Kakatiyas, rulers of the eastern Deccan, have been defeated. And the Yadavas, who controlled the western plateau, have fallen to Delhi's armies. For the first time in centuries, the entire region is vulnerable. But vulnerability creates opportunity. And in 1336, 2 brothers, Harihara ** and Bukka **, former generals in the service of a defeated Hindu kingdom, make a decision that will change the course of history. They will not serve the Sultanate. They will not retreat. They will build a new capital. A city that can defend itself. A city that can control the trade routes of the South. A city that will become the richest in the world. They choose a location on the southern bank of the Tungabhadra River. The site is strategic. To the north, the river provides a natural defense against invasion. To the south, the land opens onto fertile plains that can feed a massive population. And all around, rocky outcrops rise from the earth, natural fortifications that will make the city nearly impossible to besiege. They name it Vijayanagara, the city of victory. The first decades are brutal. Harihara and Bukka do not inherit an empire. They carve it out, fort by fort, village by village, defeating rival warlords and absorbing their territories. By 1346, they control the entire southern Deccan. By 1365, their armies have pushed north, reclaiming lands lost to the Delhi Sultanate. But this is not just a military empire. It is an economic one. Vijayanagara sits at the center of a trade network that spans from Hormuz in Persia to Malacca in Southeast Asia. Arab merchants bring horses from the Arabian Peninsula, essential for cavalry warfare. Chinese traders bring porcelain and silk. European merchants, first the Portuguese, then the Dutch and English, bring silver and gold. And Vijayanagara exports one thing more valuable than all of them: cotton textiles. Indian cotton is the most sought-after fabric in the world. It is lighter than wool, more durable than linen, and can be dyed in colors that do not fade. European aristocrats pay fortunes for it. Middle Eastern traders stockpile it. And Vijayanagara produces it in quantities that no other kingdom can match. But textiles are only part of the story. The empire also controls the spice trade. Pepper, cardamom, ginger, cinnamon, these are not luxuries in the medieval world. They are necessities. They preserve food, they mask the taste of spoilage, they are used in medicine. And Vijayanagara controls the ports where these spices are bought and sold. By the early 1400s, the city is generating revenue on a scale that rivals the treasuries of European monarchies. Persian ambassador Abdur-Razak, who visits in 1443, writes, "The city is such that the pupil of the eye has never seen a place like it, and the ear of intelligence has never been informed that there existed anything to equal it in the world." He describes bazaars stretching for miles. He describes reservoirs that supply water to every district of the city. He describes palaces inlaid with ivory and gold. And he describes a population that he estimates, conservatively, at 500,000 people. For comparison, London in 1500 has a population of roughly 50,000. Paris has perhaps 200,000. Vijayanagara is twice the size of Paris and 10 times the size of London. The empire reaches its height under Krishnadvarya, who rules from 1509 to 1529. He is not just a king. He is a poet, a scholar, a military genius, and a statesman. Under his rule, Vijayanagara becomes the undisputed superpower of southern India. His armies defeat the sultanates of the Deccan in a series of campaigns that secure the empire's northern borders. He annexes the port of Goa, at the time, one of the most important trading hubs in the Indian Ocean. He forces the Sultan of Bijapur to pay tribute. And he does all of this while maintaining diplomatic relations with the Portuguese, who are establishing their own colonial presence along the western coast. But Krishnadvarya's legacy is not built on war alone. He is a patron of the arts, literature, and architecture. He commissions temples that still stand today, massive stone structures covered in intricate carvings, depicting gods, kings, battles, and everyday life. He funds poets and playwrights, including Alasani Pedana, who writes the Manucharitamu, one of the great works of Telugu literature. And he transforms Vijayanagara itself into a showcase of imperial power. The royal enclosure, the heart of the city, is expanded. New palaces are built, including the Lotus Mahal, a pavilion designed in a fusion of Hindu and Islamic architectural styles. The Hazara Rama Temple, reserved for the royal family, is covered in friezes depicting scenes from the Ramayana asterisk. And the Vitala Temple, perhaps the most famous structure in Vijayanagara, is constructed during this period. Its stone pillars are carved so precisely that they produce musical notes when struck. Its stone chariot, a shrine built in the shape of a war chariot, becomes an icon of Indian architecture. But the most telling detail of Krishnadvarya's reign is not the temples. It is the markets. Portuguese traveler Domingo Pires, who visits Vijayanagara in 1520, writes, "The size of this city I do not write here, because it cannot all be seen from any one spot. but it is so large that the population is countless. He describes a city divided into specialized districts. One street is dedicated to the sale of rubies and diamonds. Another sells only horses. Another sells only textiles. The market for precious stones alone, he writes, employs thousands of workers, cutters, polishers, appraisers, merchants. He describes the Mahanavami Dibba, a massive platform where the king holds court during festivals, surrounded by diplomats from Persia, Arabia, China, and Europe. And he describes the wealth of the common people. The people are well dressed, even the laborers wear jewelry. The women are covered in gold. This is not exaggeration. Archaeological evidence supports it. Excavations of residential areas in Vijayanagara reveal that even ordinary homes contain imported Chinese porcelain, Persian glassware, and gold ornaments. This is a city where wealth is not concentrated in the hands of a tiny elite. It is a city where prosperity is visible at every level of society. To understand how Vijayanagara became so wealthy, you must understand its economic model. This is not a feudal economy like medieval Europe, where wealth is tied to land ownership and peasant labor. This is a market economy. The state does not own the means of production. Instead, it taxes trade, encourages merchants, and invests in infrastructure. The empire builds roads that connect the interior to the coast. It constructs reservoirs and irrigation systems that allow farmers to grow multiple crops per year. It standardizes weights and measures, making trade easier. And it protects merchants, both Hindu and Muslim, ensuring that commerce can flourish without fear of banditry or arbitrary taxation. The result is an economy that produces surplus wealth. And that surplus is reinvested into the city itself. Vijayanagara's water management system is one of the most advanced in the medieval world. The city is supplied by a network of aqueducts, canals, and reservoirs that channel water from the Tungabhadra River. These are not simple ditches. They are engineered structures, built with stone and designed to maintain a steady flow even during the dry season. The main reservoir, Kamalapuram Tank, covers over 40 acres and supplies water to the royal enclosure and surrounding districts. Smaller tanks are distributed throughout the city, ensuring that every neighborhood has access to clean water. This system allows Vijayanagara to support a population far larger than any European city of the same period. But infrastructure alone does not explain the city's wealth. The real secret is financial integration. Vijayanagara is not just a trading hub. It is a banking hub. Merchants in the city issue hundis, a form of promissory note that functions as an early credit instrument. A merchant in Vijayanagara can issue a hundi to a trader in Hormuz, who can then redeem it with a banker in Calicut. This system allows capital to flow across vast distances without the need to physically transport gold or silver. It reduces the risk of theft. It increases the speed of trade. And it gives Vijayanagara a financial sophistication that most European cities will not achieve for another 2 centuries. The empire also benefits from its religious pluralism. Unlike the sultanates to the north, which often impose taxes on non-Muslims, Vijayanagara does not discriminate based on religion. Muslim merchants are welcome. Muslim architects designed some of the city's most important buildings. And Muslim soldiers serve in the empire's armies. This openness attracts talent and capital from across the Islamic world, further enriching the city. By the 1520s, Vijayanagara is generating more tax revenue than the Kingdom of England. Its treasury holds more gold than the coffers of the Holy Roman Emperor. And its markets process more trade goods than any port in Europe. This is not speculation. This is recorded in the accounts of foreign visitors, in temple inscriptions, and in the archaeological record. Vijayanagara, in the early 16th century, is the richest city in the world. But empires do not last forever, and Vijayanagara's dominance contains the seeds of its own destruction. The first problem is succession. Krishnadvarya dies in 1529, and his death triggers a power struggle. His chosen heir is his infant son, but the boy dies under mysterious circumstances. The throne passes to Krishnadvarya's half-brother, Achyuta Deva Raya, but he is weak and indecisive. Factions form within the court. Generals vie for power, and the empire begins to lose cohesion. The second problem is external. To the north, the Deccan Sultanates by Jaipur, Ahmednagar, Golconda, Bidar, and Berar have been rivals for decades. But they are also beginning to see Vijayanagara as a common threat. And in 1565, they do something unprecedented. They form an alliance. This is not a temporary truce. This is a coordinated military pact designed for one purpose: to destroy Vijayanagara. The third problem is military evolution. Vijayanagara's army is still built around traditional cavalry and infantry. But the Sultanates have adopted gunpowder weapons. They have cannons. They have matchlock muskets. And they have Turkish and Persian military advisors who teach them European siege tactics. Vijayanagara, despite its wealth, has been slow to adapt. Its generals still believe in the superiority of massed cavalry charges. Its fortifications, while formidable, are designed to resist traditional siege warfare, not cannon fire. And its rulers, distracted by internal politics, have failed to invest in modernizing the military. By the early 1560s, the balance of power has shifted. Vijayanagara is still wealthy, but it is no longer invincible. The year is 1565. The armies of the Deccan Sultanates march south. Their target is Vijayanagara. The Emperor Ramaraya is an experienced general. He has fought the Sultanates before, and he believes he can defeat them again. He leads his army north to meet them at Talikota, a small village on the plains near the Krishna River. The Vijayanagara army is massive. Contemporary estimates suggest it numbers between 100,000 and 200,000 soldiers. But the Sultanate coalition is larger, and it has superior firepower. The battle begins on the morning of January 23. Ramaraya orders a cavalry charge, hopping to break the Sultanate lines before their cannons can do significant damage. But the Sultanates have learned from previous encounters. They position their cannons on elevated ground, protected by infantry armed with matchlock muskets. As the Vijayanagara cavalry charges, the cannons open fire. The noise is deafening. The effect is catastrophic. Horses panic, riders are thrown. Entire squadrons are shredded by grapeshot before they can reach the enemy lines. Ramaraya orders a second charge, then a third. Each time the result is the same. By midday, the Vijayanagara army is in disarray. And then disaster. Ramaraya is captured. The Sultanate generals bring him before their commanders, and they execute him on the battlefield. The sight of the emperor's severed head breaks the morale of the Vijayanagara army. Soldiers flee. Generals abandon their posts, and the Sultanate forces pursue, cutting down anyone who cannot escape. The Battle of Talikota is over in a single day. But the destruction of Vijayanagara has only just begun. After the battle, the Sultanate armies march south. They do not come to occupy Vijayanagara. They come to destroy it. For 6 months, they loot, burn, and demolish. Palaces are stripped of their gold and ivory. Temples are smashed. Reservoirs are poisoned. Markets are set on fire. The population, those who have not already fled, is massacred or enslaved. Portuguese traveler César Federis ***, who visits the ruins a few years later, writes, "The city is utterly destroyed. Not a house stands. The streets are choked with rubble. The temples are defaced. The palaces are empty shells." He walks through the royal enclosure and finds it deserted. He enters the great markets and finds them silent. He examines the reservoirs and finds them dry, their channels deliberately broken. The Sultanates do not want to rebuild Vijayanagara. They want to ensure it can never rise again. And they succeed. The city that once held 500,000 people is abandoned. The trade routes that once flowed through it are redirected to Sultanate-controlled ports. The scholars, merchants, and artisans who once called it home scatter to other kingdoms. And within a generation, the memory of Vijayanagara as a living city begins to fade. But the destruction of Vijayanagara is not just physical. It is also historiographic. In the centuries that follow, European scholars write the history of the medieval world. And they write it as if Vijayanagara never mattered. When they map the trade routes of the 1500s, they focus on European exploration. They describe Vasco da Gama's arrival in India as the beginning of the Age of Discovery. They treat Indian kingdoms as peripheral, as places that Europeans discovered, rather than as powers in their own right. And they ignore the fact that, for most of the 16th century, Vijayanagara was a wealthier and more powerful state than any European monarchy. This erasure is not accidental. It reflects the biases of colonial scholarship. European historians in the 18th and 19th centuries were writing in a world dominated by European empires. To acknowledge that a non-European city had once been richer than London, more advanced than Paris, and more cosmopolitan than Venice would undermine the narrative of European superiority. So they didn't. They described Vijayanagara as a ruined city. They treated it as a curiosity, a set of picturesque ruins to be sketched by British officers on tour. And they did not seriously study it as an economic or political power. It was not until the 20th century that scholars began to reconstruct the true scale of Vijayanagara's wealth and influence. Archaeological surveys revealed the size of the city. Comparative economic analysis showed the volume of its trade. And translations of Persian, Portuguese, and Telugu sources demonstrated that foreign visitors had consistently described it as one of the greatest cities in the world. But by then, the damage was done. Generations of students had been taught a version of history in which Vijayanagara barely existed. And even today, most people have never heard of it. Today, the ruins of Vijayanagara cover more than 25 square kilometers. They sit on the banks of the Tungabhadra River in the modern Indian state of Karnataka. They are UNESCO World Heritage Site, and they are almost entirely ignored by international tourism. But if you walk through them, if you trace the remains of the aqueducts, the markets, the palaces, you begin to understand what was lost. You see the stone foundations of multi-story bazaars, each one large enough to house hundreds of vendors. You see the remains of the royal mint, where coins were struck with images of gods and kings. You see the step tank, a public bath carved from solid rock, its stairs descending into cool, clear water. You see the Queen's Bath, a private pavilion surrounded by arched corridors, its interior walls once covered in frescoes. And you see the Elephant Stables, a long building with 11 massive dome chambers, each one large enough to house a war elephant. These are not the ruins of a primitive society. These are the ruins of a civilization that understood hydraulic engineering, urban planning, and monumental architecture. A civilization that built on a scale that rivaled anything in Europe. A civilization that, had it survived, might have played a very different role in the history of global trade and colonialism. The story of Vijayanagara is not just about one city. It is about how history is written and how history is forgotten. For centuries, the narrative of the medieval world was written by European scholars for European audiences. And in that narrative, wealth and power were assumed to be European. But the evidence tells a different story. In the 1500s, the richest cities in the world were not in Europe. They were in Asia. Constantinople, Cairo, Delhi, Vijayanagara. These were the centers of trade, learning, and culture. And European explorers did not discover them. They sought them out because they knew these cities held the wealth they lacked. Vijayanagara's destruction was not inevitable. It was the result of military defeat, political fragmentation, and the deliberate erasure of its memory by those who came after. But the stones remain, and they tell a story that cannot be erased. In the year 1500, there was a city that controlled more wealth than London, Venice, and Paris combined. It had universities, hospitals, markets, and temples. It had running water, paved streets, and a financial system that rivaled anything in Europe. And it was destroyed so completely that most people today have never heard its name. But history is not just what we remember. It is also what we forget. And sometimes, the most important stories are the ones that were deliberately left out. This is *** Unknown History Archive. If you want to see more forgotten stories brought back to life, follow this channel. Because the past is not what you were taught. It is what the evidence reveals. And the evidence is still speaking.